Well, good afternoon everybody. Welcome along to Donington Park, where we're about to get our first Sports 2000 racing underway today, with a set of 4 races in total this weekend, and it is the historic division that is in action first. The cars are making their way around the circuit on their green flag lap, and we are ready to get our very exciting opening race of the weekend underway very shortly. Qualifying earlier on today saw Nick Johnson set the fastest lap time for this first race of the weekend in his Lola, and with 7/10 of a second his advantage over Charlie Hyatt, he'll certainly be feeling confident of a good result here today. But Charlie Hyatt, the championship leader in the overall rankings within the historic division, is going to be certainly gunning for another class win, if nothing else. Although interestingly, the top 3 cars on the grid all run in different classes. So Nick Johnson is on pole position, Charlie Hyatt starting alongside him, then Ben Cater and Mike Dodd on the second row of the grid. But like I said, Johnson, Hyatt and Carter running within classes C, A and B respectively. Then another class C car, Chris Snowden, starts from 5th on the grid alongside Nick Hyatt on that 3rd row of the grid. Mike Fry and Clive Steeper will share row number 4. 5th row then completing the top 10, that's Jörg Tobler and Patrick Egan, with Hugo Besley and Richard Cook in behind. A Class C car alongside a Class A car on the 6th row of the grid. Row 7 then for Nick Bailey and Mark Hobbs. Then it's Andreas Floth and David Muse, with David Axisa at the back of the field in the Tiger SC79. So the historic division then is by and large where you find your 1970s, 1980s Sports 2000 cars. So they are a little bit slower than some of the Duratec's that we'll see out in their race a bit later on today. But the racing should be equally as competitive, really. As I said, it's Charlie Hyatt who's got the overall points advantage. You score points within your class, so it's all about where you end up within your class positions come the end of the race. And Charlie Hyatt's been scoring well as the season has gone on and arrives here with what is near enough now an insurmountable advantage in the championship. Within the classes, well, we have got Class A being led by, unsurprisingly, Charlie Hyatt, Class B by Will Scriver, and Class C is the closest of the classes, actually, just 12 points in it between Clive Steeper and then the Narrow and Harmer shared Tiger. That car is not here, though, I don't think, this weekend. And so that means that Clive Steeper should be in the pound seat. So Andy McEwen here to talk through the action. I'm delighted to be joined by Piers Pryor for our set of races this weekend too. And Piers, these Sports 2000 cars known for producing very close racing, particularly in this historic class where the aero isn't quite so dramatic. Hoping they're going to put on a competitive race here this afternoon.
Yeah, always close racing in this Sports 2000 Championship. A lot of slipstreaming action. The cars are pretty quick through the corners, not a huge amount of speed on the straight line, but that means that, that brings the racing ever closer. 5-second board is out, so we're going racing any moment now.
Yes, we are. 20 minutes on the clock. Red lights go on. On the left then is our pole sitter Nick Johnson. On the right, Charlie Hyatt, who's going to get the best of the starts on the run downhill towards Redgate Corner. It looks like it is the pole sitter who will draw clear as they approach the braking zone for the first time. Nick Johnson then with the advantage. Charlie Hyatt slotting into 2nd place. Mike Dodd there Ben Cater, that was around the outside. Mike Dodd was up the inside of him and moves through into 3rd position, bringing with him, I think, Chris Snowden into 4th. So a couple of places dropped there by Ben Cater, who started on the inside of row 2, but somehow found himself on the outside line at Redgate Corner. They drop downhill then through the crater curves. Already a move on there for 3rd position as Mike Dodd slips back one more spot. Initially gained some good ground, but an absolutely perfect start there, Piers, for the pole sitter Nick Johnson. Oh,
Nick Johnson with an ideal start, although he's being clawed in a little bit. A good run through the second, also the old hairpin for the number 10, which is Hyatt. He has closed that gap to the leader. It was a poor start off the line. I saw out the window from Tobler in 9th place in the blue card. He's fighting his way back up the field now.
Chris Snowden, I think it is, up into 3rd place. Yes, it is. He was the one slipping past Mike Dodd at the old hairpin, so he started 5th and has moved into the top 3 now already as they make their way out of Coppice and down the exhibition straight for the first time. You can see them trying to weave around and break that slipstream as they head past the exhibition centre and turn left into the Fogarty S's. A bit later on the brakes maybe there for Charlie Hyatt and the Class A car as he tries to reel in the race leader Nick Johnson. Got the better of him in qualifying, got the better of him off the line, but doesn't seem to have the pace to get away. If anything, it's the 3rd place man now. Chris Snowden starting to close in. Mike Dodd is there in 4th position. Ben Cater 5th as they drop down through the the Melbourne Loop, and at the end of the lap we'll be able to get a good look at what the various class positions are. But all signs at the moment, Piers, pointing towards a pretty competitive race. A lunge at the inside there for Ben Cater, just a bit too far back.
Yeah, Kate had a look up the last corner, and you kind of, it is a big braking zone, but the way the corner drops away at the apex and is off camber, you kind of have to get alongside before you send it up the inside, and he thought better of it. But it's a good start for Johnson at the front of the field. The trading fastest sectors, though, in first and third place. You were right that Snowden in third was very good on the final sector of the lap, and is going to close in on the front too, I reckon.
Yeah, but then almost seems to drop back again through the first corner. Mike Dodd there, the blue and yellow, number 13, getting closer, but he's under real threat from Cater, who finally does sweep up the inside of the old hairpin. That's the same place Mike Dodd lost third place on the opening lap, but he tries to come back now on the exit of the turn. A bit of a snap of oversteer there for Cater, but he just about has the momentum climbing uphill and will make fourth place his own. Cater is already leading within his class. That's Class B, which is not the best populated of classes. It's only he and David Muse in that class right now. So he's just fighting for overall track position. But Mike Dodd gave it a good go at coming back in there.
Yeah, got a good exit out of old hairpin because, of course, Cater went in quite late and had a poor exit. You saw that little wobble, and Dodd did well to just give him a bit of extra room because otherwise there could have been contact there. It's great to see such close racing, but of course these cars being historic vehicles, there's not plentiful supply of parts, so racing with respect, as the Motorsport UK always promotes, is very much promoted in this series as well. But the group at the front still very close, not quite close enough to mount a challenge at the moment, but it does look like our leader Johnson is pulling out ever so slightly at the front of the field, and as you mentioned earlier, Snowden in third is the charging driver. Although saying that, a brilliant middle sector for Johnson, almost 5 or 6 tenths faster than the rest of the field.
And actually fastest in the first sector, Ben Cater, who we saw getting past Dodd at the beginning of the lap, and look, he is in fourth place, starting to chase after the leaders. There's been a change for fifth as Nick Hyatt has now got past Mike Dodd, so Dodd is now dropping down the order rather. Started fourth, got to third at the first corner, and now he's down into sixth position. The next car behind him, the number 33, is Mike Fry, although Dodd not really worried about him right now, wants to try and gain a place if he can and reclaim fifth position from Nick Hyatt. There is the race leader though, Nick Johnson, dropping down the hill and now starting to make good his escape, perhaps just taking a couple of laps to get into the groove, make sure the tyres are in the right operating window, and he's leaving now Charlie Hyatt to battle Snowden for second.
Yep, Snowden definitely senses a chance at second place here. Going a little, actually just losing a little bit I say losing a little bit, gaining a little bit in the first sector, almost 4 tenths. It must have been a mistake from Hyatt somewhere at Redgate, potentially not either braking as late as he could or a bit of a snap of oversteer, with these cars always moving around, which is one of the reasons why they're so popular, is because, I mean, they're so fun to drive, aren't they?
But they certainly look at it. Look at the close racing they're producing. This is the battle for fifth place then. Nick Hyatt, having got past Mike Dodd at the start of the lap, now, or actually the end of the previous lap, now trying to fend him off as they drop down into the chicane. Then you've got Fry and Steeper in behind. So 4 cars in a line here, and 3 of them battling within the same class. The numbers 13, 33 and 17, that's Dodd, Fry and Steeper, are all in the same class. They're actually fighting for third place in that class, and Mike Dodd loses that position now. Slipping up the inside goes Mike Fry, and Dodd perhaps not really looking that confident under braking, is he? He's lost a few places under braking into the hairpins and now loses third place within his class.
Textbook move from Fry there. Now at the inside is the number 7. That's Beasley going up the inside of the last corner, so 2 places lost in as many corners for Dodd.
Might have been Clive Steeper, I think it was Steeper, yeah, the number 17.
Yes,
an easy
correct.
mistake to make, but Mike Dodd is now going to try and come back at him. Dodd's car almost looks like it's crabbing down the straight. I don't know if he's had a knock somewhere. Doesn't stop him going back past Clive Steeper though, so Dodd reclaiming 7th place. That is crucially 4th place within his class, and runs within Class C does Mike Dodd. Mike Dodd has not done the full season for the Sports 2000s this year. Has raced, he's always been competitive, a bit of a veteran of this class is Mike, and bending off Clive Steeper now as they head out of the old hairpin. That's just fragmented that group of cars apart ever so slightly. 6 minutes into the race, Nick Johnson leads. He's got the fastest lap, which he set last time, 1:40.5. That is 8 tenths, in fact, no, sorry, 1.2 seconds away from the fastest lap in qualifying, though. So I'd be surprised, Piers, if the track had got slower. I suspect the drivers may be running a bit more fuel in the race or just pacing themselves. We may still see the lap times improve, though, as we go on.
Yeah, I reckon there's still some time to come. The ultimate pace of these cars, as you mentioned, qualifying about a second or so faster. They'll be building into it. Again, these are historic cars. That's the that's part of the championship, so they might take a little while to get in the groove of things and get everything heated up. But not hanging about is Johnson at the front of the field, setting a purple first sector, a decent middle sector. But it's interesting to see the ebbing and flowing of the slightly different makes of these cars, although they run the same groups and classes, and also in the same championship. Some parts of the circuit seem to suit other drivers, but that is now Snowden right on the back and looking around the outside of Hyatt at turn 1.
Yeah, a pair of Tigers here running side by side into Redgate corner. Snowden on the outside, Hyatt defends on the inside line, manages to stay ahead for now, but you can see the extra exit speed that Snowden was able to carry. Hyatt, though, anticipated that well, kept to the inside on corner exits, and Snowden says, okay, I'll just go around the outside instead. He had so much extra momentum there, Piers, that it didn't really matter what Charlie Hyatt did. He wasn't keeping that 32 car behind.
I was about to say it's great defending from Hyatt. He managed to sort of foresee that Snowden was going to try a cutback through Redgate at turn 1 and covered it off, but that exit was his exit was affected so much so that the car of Snowden went right around the outside. A great move from Snowden, good foresight, great racing, clean, fair, and it's now Cater in 4th that's going to be licking his lips, I reckon.
And it does now mean that we've got a pair of Class C cars running at the front of the field, but maybe not for much longer if Charlie Hyatt has his own way. Right up to the edge of the road, they both went there out of Coppice corner, but in the end it is Snowden whose car seems to maybe be performing a bit better in a straight line. You can see there nicely from the head-on shot that although these are both Tigers, the number 32, the SC81 of Chris Snowden, a little bit smaller, isn't it, in dimensions, so that's making it a bit more aerodynamic and just running a bit better in a straight line than the SC87, which is running in behind. That car maybe with a bit more downforce, but that extra drag down the straights just holding it back slightly. A good battle going on a bit further back. That's the number 66 looking up the inside, in fact doing more than looking at clatters into the side of the number 90 and Patrick Egan. That was Jörg Tobler. Those two started together on the grid and they got a bit too close on that occasion. That may have done a bit of damage, I fear, to the number 90 Lola.
Yeah, that looked like a heavy hit. It was Tobler that went in very, very late into the Melbourne hairpin, braked up the inside, looked like a good move, but I don't think he just quite arrested his speed quickly enough and used the number 90 on the outside as an aid to go around the corner. I'm sure that was not deliberate, it would have been just a slight misjudgment. Hopefully they can still carry on despite the heavy contact. Luckily it was directly side to side, so that might have dissipated some of the impact so that they can both continue and finish this race.
And the great thing about particularly the Lowly, you can see from the design, the rear wheels are actually covered by the bodywork. Now that's for aerodynamic purposes, but it also protects the rear suspension from that sort of side-to-side contact, so that might just have saved him actually, and it does look as though Egan is going to continue on his way. Now also continuing is the fight for second place. 3 cars, all running in different classes actually. You've got Chris Snowden in the Class C car running in second place, Charlie Hyatt in third, runs in Class A, and then you've got Ben Cater running in Class B behind. Doesn't really matter that they're in different classes though, Piers. They are engaging in what is right now the best battle on track.
I was about to say exactly the same thing. I think the class system goes out the window when the fighting is this close, doesn't it?
Absolutely. Look how close they are. A bit of a mistake though, was there for Ben Cater, I think?
Yeah, just a poor run through Fogarty means he's dropped off the back. We mentioned it in the other championships we've seen racing today, that the Fogarty S is potentially the most important corner on the track for attacking and defending. Doesn't really matter how fast you go in there. If you get a good exit, it can really, really help you with defence, because if you won't then be under pressure, or if you are attacking, you need to get a good exit to put yourself in a good position and force the driver ahead offline into the Melbourne hairpin. But the second best overtaking opportunity probably is the first corner, which are coming up to now, and the number 31 of Cater looking to the outside. Is he going to look for a cutback or go all the way around the outside at turn 1? Not going to go all the way around the outside. Braking late was Hyatt, but a cutback is potentially what he was going for. Not this time, again around the outside. Can he copy what Snowden did just a couple of laps ago?
Didn't quite have the momentum there on that occasion, did he? Charlie Hyatt managing to hang on, but this is a good battle. Hyatt, it's interesting, this qualified on the front row, remember. He was quicker than Ben Cater in qualifying by actually about 0.6 of a second, and yet in the race, Cater finding a little bit more speed, or maybe Hyatt losing speed. Hyatt's best lap so far was his previous one, actually, a 141.0, but he did a 39.9 in qualifying, so he is over a second away still from his previous best lap, whereas the race leader Nick Johnson's done a 39.5. That's within a couple of tenths of his pole position time, so I suspect that maybe Charlie Hyatt here is nursing some sort of an issue. We do see this with, again, a historic class of racing. He's driving round it well, hanging on to this third position. He's still leading his class as well, of course, and although we say the class structure goes out of the window, I'm sure Charlie is still thinking about that class win, that points that he'll score for that class victory, and he'll just want to try and nurse the car home if he can.
Yeah, I was thinking actually, it was an unusual move that Snowden managed around the outside of Hollywood down to the Craner curves. Normally in a similar class car, you can't make that move unless there is some sort of issue, but potentially intermittent, because now, you know, through down the Melbourne Loop, it was fine. Maybe a slight straight line speed issue for Hyatt in third place at the moment. He's quick enough through the corners. Every corner we go through, he chomps back onto the back, and then he seems vulnerable by the end of the next straight, as you can see right now.
Yeah, maybe a small misfire or something is certainly hurting him down the straights, isn't it? To the outside again goes Cater. Once more, though, Charlie Hyatt much later on the brakes. Does he drift wide on the exit? Yes, he does. And here comes Cater, gets an overlap, gets his nose to the inside line, and now they're side by side for third place through Hollywood into the Craner curves, which initially will favour Hyatt on the inside, but then we turn right through the old hairpin, inches between them, maybe a tiny bit of paint traded actually, but through goes Ben Cater, and Charlie Hyatt slips down to fourth. Good racing.
Great close racing. I think there was a touch of contact there, but it was Cater giving only just enough room on the inside for Hyatt. I think that was fair racing, tight but fair, and a mistake from Cater. That could bring Hyatt back in.
Now that is one of those corners, McLean's, isn't it? Because it's quite steeply uphill, you're tempted sometimes to carry a bit too much speed in, and if the car doesn't stick, then you can be heading for the gravel trap very quickly. Thankfully, Cater kept it on the black stuff and manages now to keep Charlie Hyatt at bay. Now, can he move into second place? That becomes the next question, because Chris Snowden, as we've seen, despite their battling behind, hasn't been able to escape, and that tells me that maybe he's starting to struggle for outright pace a little bit, and Cater, I'm sure, is going to be on the attack before much longer. The local wildlife wisely gets out of the way just as Charlie Hyatt dives to the inside of Ben Cater. That was a really spirited attempt. Is it going to work though? We know he's good on the brakes, but maybe lacking in a straight line, and that should allow Cater to draw back ahead. Yeah,
it looks like it is. Number 10 there, you were looking at Hyatt, does seem to be struggling in a straight line. He's got so much confidence through the corners, on the brakes, as we've seen by that excellent lunge up the inside, textbook move, managed to make the apex, nearly contact, but it was good to see Cater giving him enough space, but then we go down the straight and he seems to lose 3 or 4 car lengths.
Yeah, I mean, bear in mind, in qualifying, he was within half a second of Nick Johnson. Nick Johnson is 10 seconds nearly up the road now from this battle, so quite clearly Charlie Hyatt doesn't have the speed that he had in qualifying. Now he's got a grandstand view of what is a pretty tense battle for second place here. Snowden and Cater, with Chris Snowden just about hanging on, but look to bend slightly into the old hairpin. Normally I'd say that's not a place you have to defend particularly, but we've seen Ben Cater make a move down there once already in this race, and so Snowden did the right thing, I think, there to cover that off.
That was he's looking closely at the back of the number 32, Snowden. Snowden's going to have to feel some real pressure for the first time this race. He went forward, getting past Hyatt a few laps ago. This is this first defensive manoeuvre he's going to have to make in this race. Can he hold him off? It looks like Cater's definitely coming on strong in the latter stages of this race.
Almost looks to me like Charlie Hyatt, the third car in shot, has got a bit of damage on the left front corner. Next time you see the left-hand side of the car, take a look. Maybe there's a bit of bodywork that's been ripped loose. That won't be helping the aerodynamics, and it might have knocked the steering out slightly if he's made contact with something or someone. Gets a good exit from the chicane, though, just as I say that, and he's now surely going to try and look to lunge back up the inside of Ben Cater. Cater sees it coming, defends the inside. Hyatt is desperately late on the brakes. Can he go right round the outside? The answer, I think, is going to be no. Ben Cater should fend him off. Or, well, maybe not. Is there still an overlap, though? Gets over to the inside line to cover, and so to the outside instead goes Hyatt. There's a collision down to the hairpin. That's Mike Dodd escaping, and I think the number 33 of Mike Fry is the one that he's tangled with. Mike Fry is going nowhere. The bodywork's being knocked loose. There's steam coming from the side of the car. They were battling over 6th place and 3rd in class peers.
Yeah, that's clearly they've come to blows there. There was heavy contact made, the side pod's broken, and there's some other damage underneath the hood, or the bonnet, or what do you call it, bodywork, the bodywork of the car there. Hopefully everyone is physically okay. Looked like he was moving, inspecting the damage. Good to see him out of the car, but unfortunately that is going to be the end of the race, and probably at least a double wave yellow in that sector of the circuit for the rest of the race. might be going into the territory of safety cars if that cannot be retrieved. Ah, there we go. That's probably the driver that has been involved in that accident.
Yeah, it's Mike Dodd, isn't it, who I saw sort of tangled up with Mike Fry. There is Mike Fry's car. Now, this is good. The marshals are going to try and push it out of the way, but it wasn't for moving then, was it? So they may need a little bit of outside assistance, which could lead to a safety car. We'll wait and see. What have you spotted?
You're right. That you mentioned a lap or so ago. Number 10 there, Hyatt, has got damage on the left front side, the left hand front wheel over where that cover that normally covers it has got a bit of damage. We haven't seen any contact that we're aware of, so maybe it's just a wind's caught it, or maybe it hit a curb, or maybe is there a bollard? Is there a tyre stack on the inside of the Fogarty chicane? That's probably what he's done. He's just got a bit cute and a bit tight over the curb at the Fogarty S's and damaged that bodywork. Shouldn't be harming his speed too much. Probably won't be responsible for the full straight line deficit that he seems to have at the moment, but you know, if it wasn't for that straight line deficit, I could see Hyatt being at the front of these two at least, because he seems to be right there on the exit of every corner, and then has to fight back in the entry of the next corner because he's already dropped a few. And you can see how hard he's pushing, using all of the road and more, and not, you know, a shake of the head there on the exit. You can see the straight line deficit. It looks like Cater's lining up Snowden. Not this time. Knows he's still got a couple more laps remaining, so biding his time, picking his place. Yeah,
this race has gone quite quickly, hasn't it, actually? 2 3/4 minutes to go. Further back, meanwhile, that's the number 16 car, which is doing battle. Richard Cook. Where is Cook? He's 10th place at the moment, right behind him, number 14 of Hugo Besley. These two, again, running in different classes, but they've still found each other out on track. Very pretty car, isn't it? The Lola T87, number 16, that leads this little pair out of the final turn. And so low to the ground as well. Wouldn't fancy running over those sausage curbs in one of these piers. I think you'd feel that, wouldn't you?
Oh, it'd be straight up your back, that is for sure. They're very low slung cars. They must be pretty nippy through the chicanes because they don't weigh a huge amount, do they?
No, not at all. Lightweight and actually relatively cost-effective racing as well. Obviously, getting parts, as Piers touched upon earlier on, is not the easiest of things to do, but the cars don't cost a huge amount to run, and you can get a second-hand one actually for not a huge amount of money really for the amount of performance that you're getting. Back to the race leader, Nick Johnson, who is stuck behind a back marker because he can't overtake into the yellow flag zone, so that's cost him a little bit of time, but at 10.5 seconds up the road, I don't think Nick Johnson will mind sitting behind that lapped car for the time being. He's going to come through at the end of that lap to start his final lap of the race, but this fight, Piers, still has a lap and a half of racing to go. Yeah,
Beasley having a look up the inside of McLean's, not quite getting an overlap. The braking zone not long enough to send an attack from a long way back there, but a good exit out of Coppice might put Beasley in a good position to make a move, or alternatively get that good exit through the Fogarty chicane we've mentioned that then puts you in a good position. But of course the yellow flag that is down at the Melbourne Loop will scupper that plan.
Yeah, and that changes the dynamics slightly, doesn't it? Getting the good exit from here isn't quite as valuable as it ordinarily would have been, so they stay pretty much as they were. Nothing confusing straight line speed between these two cars. The classes, by the way, are done based on the age of the car, so it's not horsepower or power to weight, anything like that. So you will get cars in different classes that are very evenly matched. A well-built car that's slightly older than one of the newer cars can still be competitive. Bit of a mistake there for Besley, though, as he came out of the Melbourne hairpin. So a bit of work to be done now to get back onto the tail of Richard Cook, who started actually one place behind Besley on the grid. So Besley would like, I'm sure, to get the better of him after what's clearly been a race-long battle. Nick Johnson, though, hasn't had much battling to do in this one, Piers. He's continued serenely on his way. Did drop a couple of seconds with that back marker on the previous lap, but that's a very minor blip in what's otherwise been a perfect race.
And you can see in the back of shot that the second, third and fourth fight is still going on strong, but a great drive from Johnson at the front of the field in the Lola 592S. It's a great looking car in the striking colours. Let's see if with the back of shot if they're still going to fan out and make any moves on the last lap. Of course, they're not into this corner because the yellow flag is still remaining, but the last corner is still fair game, I believe.
Absolutely so we'll see what happens at the last turn there, but for Nick Johnson it is going to be a race victory seemingly. The Class C runner who has only done a couple of rounds so far this season, but he's back here at Donington and back with style. Wins the first Sports 2000 race of the weekend for the historic class. The land rush for second place is going to be very close indeed, but it will just about be Chris Snowden from 5th on the grid who gets second place. Third place for Ben Cater, he claims the victory in Class B. be, and Charlie Hyatt, despite that little bit of damage at the front that seemed to be hampering him, comes home in 4th and claims the win in Class A, just ahead of Nick Hyatt, who was doing his best to try and close in behind. Must say hello to Ross Hyatt, who we normally see racing here in the Sports 2000 Championship. He's over in Singapore this weekend, but I believe is tuned in and watching along from afar. So Ross, hope you're enjoying your time over in Singapore, maybe taking in a little bit of the Formula 1 action that's taking place this weekend. This battle's still raging to the line as well, but it looks as though Richard Cook is going to keep Hugo Besley behind. Besley closes right in, actually, into Goddard's, but there's no way through, and on the run to the line, the number 16 car will stay ahead, and he swerves up to the pit wall to celebrate as well. A really graphic illustration there, Piers, of how it doesn't matter what position you're actually fighting for. If you come out on top in a battle like that, it still means a lot.
I'm sure it will definitely mean a lot, because sometimes the relative experience of the different drivers and potentially the relative speed of the cars means that you're only going to get so far up, and if you've achieved everything that you want to and you feel like you've got the most out of the car and yourself, then it's a good thing to do, and you'll feel happy with that, and celebrate with your team, as a lot of the team obviously stand on the pit wall to help their drivers with their pit walls, etc.
Indeed so. So an entertaining first race of the weekend then for the Sports 2000 Historic Championship, and that is their first of 2 races this weekend complete. They will be back out again, the historic class, tomorrow before the Duratec race at the end of the day. It was a win then for Nick Johnson. 2nd place goes the way of Chris Snowden, and 3rd place for Ben Cater. 4th place then for Charlie Hyatt, with Nick Hyatt in 5th. 6th position for the number 17 of Clive Steeper. 7th was number 66 Jörg Tobler, who survived that clash down at the Melbourne Hairpin earlier on with the number 90, I seem to remember it was, of Patrick Egan, who comes home in 8th place. 9th place then for Richard Cook, getting the better of Hugo Besley in their race-long battle there for 9th spot. Was just outside of the top 10, we had David Muse in the number 2, the number 12 of Nick Bailey. Then it was David Exisa. For those who had dramas, Mike Dodd tangling, unfortunately, with Mike Fry down at the Melbourne Hairpin. That ended both of their races, and it was also a retirement, I believe, into the pit lane for the number 35 of Mark Hobbs. So, exciting racing. As I said, the Historics will be back out again tomorrow. It's actually a very early finish for the Historic classes. They're our first race out tomorrow at 9:05 in the morning, and that's it. They're done for the weekend, but I'm sure many of them will stick around to watch the Duratex. They have got a race to come later on today at about 25 to 7. Quite a late finish today here at Donington Park, so be sure to tune in for the Duratec race a little bit later on as well. But for now, that is Sports 2000 action done for the time being here at Donington. We'll see you later on for the Duratex.